I still remember my mom telling me the next morning, because I was fast asleep at night, that you know what Nana did? And I said, what did he do? So he used to go to a place called Coral Club in Allahabad. It was a railway club where they used to play housey every Thursday. And it was freezing cold. Allahabad gets very cold. It's it can reach almost 0 degrees. So he was coming back by rickshaw, by cycle rickshaw. And the poor rickshawala had only a thin chadar around him. And my Nana was, was very, very smartly dressed gentleman.
I can imagine.
So he came, got off at the gate of the house, and when he paid the rickshawala, he took off his Harris tweed jacket and gave it to him. And it's so cold, you better keep it.
You need it.
So the rickshawala said, "No, sir, मैं नहीं ले सकता. ये आपका है, आप ले जाइए." नहीं. I said, "No, you keep it." And a very expensive Harris tweed jacket he just gave to the rickshawala without even batting an eyelid. And that's what I believe, that the more you give, the more you'll get.
Welcome to another episode of Unbox with Tunvey, a show where we have conversations with people who've lived unconventional lives, made some bold choices over the years, and I think are dedicated to living up to their highest potential. Today, I have with me someone who's an advertising man. He loves traveling. He's a communications blogger. He's a photographer. But above all, he is a storyteller. And through many, many means of storytelling, he's created, interesting experiences. So I'd like you to help me welcome Mr. Navroze D Dhondy.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on the show.
No, I'm really glad you're here. And before I even get to talking about all of the stuff that I want to talk to you about, have you always been called out on your name? Because Navroz is the Parsi New Year.
Yes, correct.
It's festive times. Is that how you've lived your life?
I think a name does play a very important role in your life. People think that just name a child. Possibly it's one of the most important, impactful things which happen to a person. And I've seen that in all walks of life. So in my case, I'm really blessed and I'm very happy my parents called me Navroz, because I literally live a new day every life, of my life every day. So a new day, a new way, a new beginning. It's literally that. Without realizing it, I think it comes now almost naturally.
No, I think so many words we don't necessarily know the immediate meaning of. But if you even look at all the quantum science and conversation around energy that's happening,
Correct.
You're calling that person by that name every day, 10 times a day. Obviously, it does impact how you interact with the world, I feel. It does.
So I must share with you a very interesting little story.
Yeah, please.
You
are the storyteller.
I'm the storyteller. So this is a very sort of personal story, and it's a family joke also. We all have this little joke. So when my brother was born, he was called Darais. He's my younger brother. He's 3 years younger to me. And so we had Navroz and Darais were in the family. Now, for the first few years, the Rais didn't know much about, what Navroz Mubarak meant. But the moment he got a little aware, and he was 3 or 4 years old, on the 21st of March, everybody said, Navroz Mubarak, Navroz. Why can't they say the Rais Mubarak?
Yeah, of course. You were saying if you can Mubarak, if you can say Mubarak to him, why not
correct.
me?
So,
in fact, I think there are stories like this everywhere. My masa or uncle, everybody called him Dada because I'm from UP, and it was like
Swabi.
yeah, correct. You're Allahabad. So Dada was like Bada Bhai or whatever, Dada. And for the longest time, I thought that was his name. So I started calling him Dada Uncle. And that name stuck. Literally every cousin and every kid born in the family after that would call him Dada Uncle because similar, right? But tell me, while growing up in Allahabad, what was that like? Because for a Parsi family to be in Allahabad, I think it's were there lots of you there? Was it a big community?
Actually, yes. It was a reasonably large community. I don't know, you're from UP yourself, so UP was a hotbed of culture. And many I think almost 100 odd years ago, or more than 100 years ago, the British around the 1870s or 1880s realized that they were too far east.
Oh, in
When they were
Calcutta.
in Calcutta. Now in Calcutta, they had to control up to Afghanistan.
Correct.
And the other side was Burma. So they were much closer to the eastern side than they were to the central
western
or
side,
the western side. So as a strategy, they decided to move to a place which would be more central and allow them to control.
Yeah, and travel or whatever.
Whatever it is.
Communication would be easier.
So when they started moving westwards, they came through Bihar and most of UP. They stopped at Allahabad, and Allahabad for many decades was the de facto capital of India.
Wow.
People don't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So if you even know, the Indian Standard Time goes through Allahabad.
Oh, really?
Yes, if you take that.
Yeah, because you always say Kolkata Standard Time, so never really.
No, yeah, it says that, but actually it's Allahabad Standard Time because the line actually goes through Allahabad. It's right in the middle of the country. So amazing coincidence, but maybe there was some planning, some thought behind it when the British came there.
Yes.
Now, when they came there, they realized that this is a beautiful piece of land or a town or a city where they had two rivers, the Ganga and the Jamna. There was no shortage of water.
Yeah.
There are three rivers actually, one underground, Saraswati also, but that's of course
visible.
Yes, the visible ones are the Ganga and the Jamna. There were beautiful areas which were actually for agriculture. There were places where they could build institutions like the Allahabad University, like the Allahabad High Court, and most importantly, they built an area called Allahabad Civil Lines.
Yeah, the cantonment area.
No. The cantonment was different.
Separate. Okay.
Yes. This is the Allahabad Civil Lines. It was the first truly planned city
in India
at that time. If you look at the old maps of Allahabad, etc., like you have streets and avenues in New York, right? In this, they had main roads and side roads.
Wow.
So they had the main road, which was initially called Canning Road, after Lord Canning, which then became MG Road, Mahatma Gandhi Marg. They had Elgin Road after Lord Elgin, which became Lal Bahadur Shastri Marg. Then they had Edmonston Road. So all those big wide roads were parallel to each other. And then there were streets. So we had Clive Road, Colvin Road, were all streets.
A properly planned structure.
Properly planned. So every plot of land, and it was planned and sold that way to various leaseholders, was a 3-acre plot. Look at the thought behind it. The 3-acre plot had the main gate on the main road.
And another side gate.
And the side gate on the side for the services and the staff, etc., to come from. So every plot had two entrances.
You've got to give the British their sense of planning.
Yeah, and it was very well planned. And I still have the old document lying with me, which is almost 120 years old or 150 years old, which was very clear that you cannot construct more than 1/3 of the plot size.
That's quite amazing.
This was 150 years ago when they had ecology also and an environment also, as an important part of their planning.
Interesting. That's a quite interesting piece of history.
Yeah.
How did your family sort of settle in Allahabad?
So I think the sense of adventure amongst the Parsis is crazy. They always like to do wacko stuff and break rules and just sort of I think be different in many ways. So my great grandfather, who was the photographer, he didn't just stick to Allahabad. In those days, can you imagine, in the early 1900s, after he established his studio in Allahabad, and it was called MB Mystery, Photographers and Artists.
Wow.
That's how it was. Yes, it was called that because it was a very artistic profession. You needed to have a lot of artistic angles to understand photography. So he then decided that Allahabad was too hot in the summers. It's too hot in the summers. I want to go to a cool place. So the old man decided to open a studio in Nainital. Can you imagine?
Wow.
So he had a winter studio and a
And a
summer
summer
studio.
studio. It's like the
Yeah, like the good
summer
old
summer capital
and the
and the
winter
winter
capital.
capital.
And then he decided one day to open a studio in Karachi. So he was the first truly, I would call it, chain
Yeah.
of studios. MB Mystery Allahabad, MB Mystery Nainital,
Nainital.
and MB Mystery Karachi.
Karachi.
And strangely enough, he gave his two sons-in-law, my Nana, who was his elder son-in-law, he gave him the studio in Allahabad. He gave his other son-in-law the studio in Karachi to run, and they were both photographers. And he then mostly stayed
In Nainital.
Nainital, or he would go and take the ship to London to get all his chemicals and his trays and his paper and everything else. So,
How do you think Allahabad's, shaped you?
oh, in a very big way. Allahabad had a very interesting blend of a small town in terms of community and convenience, and a very big town mindset. I'll tell you why. Because when the British came there, the Allahabad University, the Allahabad High Court, attracted a huge amount of talent
From all over the world.
from all over the world, from all over the country. It was the most cosmopolitan city in North India. Even Delhi was not so cosmopolitan. Okay, Delhi had its very strong Mughal influences. Lucknow was very Lucknowi. Kanpur was very Desi. Allahabad, strangely enough,
Was an
potpourri.
amalgam. Yeah, it was an
Yes.
amalgam of many cultures and
So
people.
we grew up with Maharashtrians and Punjabis and South Indians, and
Which was not very common back then.
it wasn't very common.
Yeah,
It wasn't. So in our class, we had all kinds of people from all walks of life, and they were professors in the university. They were businessmen. They were lawyers, and of course, we all know the Motilal Nehru family, etc. So it brought a lot of very interesting people. It also got, in terms of culture, I don't know if you're familiar with an institute called the Prayag Sangeet Samiti.
Yes.
It's like if you're a pass out of the Prayag Sangeet Samiti,
That's a big deal.
it's a big deal.
It's a very big
deal. I mean,
yes.
it's like the Berkeley School of Music. It was. I mean, people from all over the country would come there for their graduation and their post graduation. So imagine that kind of a culture.
Like a big hub of cultural, various cultural aspects, not
I'll
just
just tell you
one.
one more thing interesting. Theatre, writing. You have Harivansh Rai Bachchan. We had, the famous Hindi authors from there. And we had Prithviraj Kapoor and Kendall, Jennifer Kendall's father, bringing theatre
To Allahabad.
to Allahabad in the early 1900s. And they were performing at my in-laws cinema hall, which is still there, called the Palace Theatre. It's going to be 100 years next year.
But tell me, you've had a very interesting career. Advertising, you were with JWT, HTA, then Linters was your first job with Alec Padamsi. So, but even before that, I read a story you wrote about J.R.D. Tata in your first meeting with him. That just blew me away. And while we may not have time to delve too deep into it, but I do want you to share that story because like I said, you're the storyteller. So, we have to have a pitara of lots of stories.
One other story I must tell you about Allahabad before I go to the J.R.D. story is about my school.
Yeah?
Yeah. So like you said, did Allahabad shape you into what you are today? My school wasn't, I think, a school way ahead of its time. Wasn't just a school. The headmaster we had was a gentleman called Father Rego. If you ask anyone who's been to St. Joseph's Collegiate, we never called it a school, by the way. It was called SJC. So I never went to school. I went from St. Joseph's Collegiate to college. Straight. School was a misnomer. Anyway, so school was a great learning experience because Father Rego, in the late 60s, imagine, late 60s, you're talking about almost 50 years ago, he ran the school.
More than 50 years.
More than 55 years ago. He ran the school by school parliament. Do you know that? Parliament. That means we had 4 houses, gold, red, blue, green. All the students were divided into 4 houses. I was part of Gold House. And every year, 3 houses would form the coalition government, and one house would be the opposition.
Wow.
So he instilled this whole idea of how democratically you can run a school. And we used to have parliament sessions, and you had minister of finance. Imagine a 16-year-old kid looking after the school finances, and it had a huge impact on me personally. I was the minister of social welfare.
Wow.
And it is amazing to realize when you were 15, 16 years old, you have to literally go with a begging bowl to all the students, to the teachers, to your friends. And we used to collect, we just say, ek muthi, just one fistful of grain. We used to get rice or wheat or dal or anything. Just bring in a small packet. So can you imagine if there are 2,000 students
bringing
in just one fist of grain, you'll have so much of grain in your sacks. We should take that grain, we should take old clothes, we should take old shoes and go and help
people
the
in
flood.
need.
Yes, the flood victims, because Allahabad used to have a annual flooding of the Jamna. Every year it used to flood.
Yeah, the floodplains was
Yeah, there were famine also, there was flood also. So there was somebody in need of something.
Yeah.
And we as students used to take these bag full of goods and just go and help them out.
I think it just makes you so aware that we're not living in a silo. And I feel that that is one of the things that a lot of youngsters are struggling with today. They don't even realize that they're struggling with it because
Absolutely.
For many people, that sense of community has gone. Walls have become bigger. Nobody knows their neighbors. And yes, when you had the peeping toms and when you had the auntie looking out and saying, kitne baje aaye or kitne baje gaye, I'm sure it can be annoying and you feel it's an invasion of your privacy. But at the same time, that same community who was, eavesdropping on your lives was also there as a support system. Today, I feel a lot of mental health challenges are also there because people feel isolated, people feel cut off. And when you do something like this in your school days, it truly makes you feel that you're part of a larger group of people, a larger community.
I must add one thing over here. This gentleman, Father Rego, used to have students understand that you're privileged, you're lucky, that you have this education, but don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
Second, share knowledge that you have. You won't believe it. After school, a certain number of kids would stay back and teach the children of the staff.
No, I know a lot of schools have after school programs where they do that. But I think, when you inculcate that early in children,
Correct.
Where they feel a sense of responsibility towards those around them and maybe not so privileged, I think it creates empathy, it creates social responsibility, it creates, I think, a better citizen. I do genuinely believe that.
So that's what happened with the school. Now coming to
And
the
I know
J.R.D. story.
I know, because you were doing your MBA at that time,
That's
and
right.
you were raising some funds for school for the magazine, for the brochure, for the.
We had a huge program. I think we lost it because we began by thinking of inviting 3 or 4 professors or people to come and have a little session that got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
So it
And
needed more money.
Yeah, so it became a 3-day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday event over 3 days called Scopum. Okay, seminar on concepts and principles of management. That's how Scopum was. Yeah.
Branding शुरू से कर रहे हैं हम.
Branding शुरू हो गया उस समय. So Scopum became our annual event. Now we realized that we have to
Raise funds for it.
get people to come here, pay for their fare and accommodate them in hotels and get cars organized. So budgets went haywire. Now how do you recover all that money? So I was in charge of sponsorship. I don't know how I got into that.
But you've been doing that ever since.
Looks like it, yeah.
From Scopum to IPL. But anyway, finish the Scopum story.
From school to Scopum to IPL, yes, absolutely. So anyway, one went around the usual suspects in Allahabad. And Allahabad had a very interesting industry too. So we had the A.H. Wheeler bookshops guys over there, the Banerjees. We had the Simons and the Slazenger, sports goods guys, again the same family. Then we had the Mitra Prakashan, who used to print Maya and Manohar Kahani
Correct,
and all that
correct.
stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then we had Triveni Glass, and we had the ITI.
So lots of industries are there.
Decent amount. IFCO was in Phulpur. So we went around and garnered some kind of money, but still wasn't enough. So then one fine day, I just sort of decided to go to Bombay, and along with my
That in itself is a crazy thought. कि
Yeah,
चलो बॉम्बे चलते हैं,
Bombay
वहाँ
चलते
जाके
हैं।
स्पॉन्सरशिप रेस करेंगे.
देखते हैं क्या होता है। तो ट्रेन में बैठे हम दो आदमी, my dear friend Asif, who unfortunately is no more, but he was also another crazy guy, and we just took
Two
off.
adventurous souls
Two
on their way
adventurous
to raise
souls.
funds in Bombay.
Yeah.
Don't know anybody, but let's
Nobody,
go.
yeah. So
इलाहाबाद में नहीं हुआ, लेकिन बॉम्बे में हो जाएगा.
पता नहीं, हो सकता है. I mean, optimism was never a problem.
Correct. See, Navroze.
So anyway, we went over there. We went and saw, looked around, went and made a whole list of companies and went to their offices and
Knocked on doors.
and managed to raise 1,000, 500, 2,000, depending on whoever's generosity was there. And one fine evening, I walk into the Tata office at Bombay House, thinking it's free for all. Here is a youngster from Allahabad who
Yeah,
just
I'm
walks
gonna
in.
saying, give me
Yeah,
sponsorship.
give me some money. So, and surprisingly, there was no security, there were no cameras, nothing in those
उस
days.
time पे
And
क्या
yeah,
होता था,
81 में
correct.
कुछ था ही नहीं. So
Register भी नहीं था, कुछ
कुछ
लिखने
नहीं
के लिए
था.
था.
The guard also gave me a salute and said, हाँ जी, किसको मिलना है? So I said, I want to meet Mr. Tata. He said, ऊपर चले जाइए, go upstairs. So I went up this lovely staircase in Bombay House, walked in, and there was this gentleman who was sitting with his glasses and doing some work, and he looked at me and said, yes, how can I help you? So I said, I come to meet Mr. Tata. He said, do you know him? Does he have an appointment? I said, no. Why have you come here? I said, to get a souvenir ad.
Ad for my souvenir.
So he said, souvenir ad. You think Mr. Tata has time for all these things? You go and meet the head of communication or something, down the corridor, whatever it is. And or if you want to leave it over here, I will see what I can do. I think his name was Mr. De Silva, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So I said, but can I meet him, please? And no, you can't. He's very busy and, all that stuff. And it was just sheer luck, just sheer luck, that while I was talking to this gentleman, the door opened from the side and Mr. J.R.D. Tata walks out.
Wow.
I said, Navroze D Dhondy, this is your moment of truth.
Speak up now or
Go
forever
and
hold your
grab,
peace.
go and grab his hand, shake his hand and introduce yourself. So I just went and introduced myself. And I said, I'm Navroze from Allahabad and I've come here to. Navroze from Allahabad? You're a Parsi? I said, yes. Ah, very interesting. Then he was very curious to know about Allahabad and come inside. So here I was in
Went
this
and
lovely,
had a cup of chai and
yes,
biscuit
I had 2
and
cups of chai,
conversation.
long conversation, and he was asking about my, my grandparents and about photography and about very interesting chat we had. Then I said,
What
"Sir,
an
can you please-"
opportunity to have met him.
I just
But
grabbed it.
what was, over the years, when you look back on that conversation, what is it that you enjoy most about it?
The fact that he made me so comfortable. He had no airs. He was not, I am Tata, who the hell are you kind of stuff. Never. I didn't feel that even for a second.
Yeah, man, young kid
As
in
a
the
young
20s,
yeah,
or
I was
probably not
21
even
years old.
20.
I was
Yeah.
21 years old, and I
And
was
who's
just,
saying, I want an ad for my souvenir.
and the fact that he actually spent close to, I think, almost half an hour. Then he realized, oh my God, I have to go for a meeting. And there were no reminders on mobile phones in those days. So that was, I have to go now. And he was very soft spoken. He was never loud. He was never, in your face. And he was, curious.
But in advertising, I think your first job was with Lintas and you worked with Alec Padamsi. And I read of an incident where you kind of went against the grain and stood up for what you believed in and got things done. Did that come naturally, and is that a skill that you've learned to value over the years? When everybody's just doing paper pushing, you go in and say, no, this is not looking good.
Yeah, so I think...
Stick to my guns,
Right. So when, right from school days, and I mean, I wasn't a rebel. I don't think I was a rebel, but I had a point of view and would definitely stand by that point of view. I'm happy to get, knocked down if I'm wrong. And I have no qualms apologizing and saying, sorry, okay, this is what I thought and I was wrong. It's okay, it happens. But at least have a point of view. What was important was my parents, my mom and my dad, They really encouraged me to speak my mind. Very rarely would they say, shut up. They would actually listen. They may,
Disagree. Yeah.
I might get even walloped by my dad, which used to happen in those days.
Correct.
Ex-Navy guy, give us one whack and there were no arguments and no calling up the cops in those days. There's a person who
I'm filing an emancipation suit.
Correct. But school, college, even my job at Lintas, they encourage you to think and sometimes buck the trend, not necessarily say yes sir to everything. And in many ways, I was lucky that the kind of people I worked with,
you also learned and got mentored from.
Yes, and Alec, of course, was a different kettle of fish. He used to hate idiots, and I can see that happening in me too. Being able to spend time with somebody who just is
incompetent,
and understand, then it's actually a waste of good time. You can try and change the person, but after a while you say, forget it. And if you come up with stupid ideas and all, whether you're a senior person or a junior person, didn't matter.
He'd call you out on it.
He'd call you out. And if you're coming with a good idea, whether you're a senior person or a junior person, he gave you the confidence of
backing you
up. So that was very important. That, of course, today holds me in good stead when I run my own business.
Yeah, true. So, after your advertising, and if I go back to how you and I met,
correct,
I think it must have been the early 2000s.
2002.
Possibly, yeah. You're probably better with dates. And Doordarshan. And my memory of you is Fourth Umpire, the pre and post cricket show that we used to do, and Charu Sharma was the anchor. And at that point, it was called Fair and Lovely Fourth Umpire, because Fair and Lovely was a sponsor, and Charu refused to do the intro and outro because he said, listen, I refuse to say. He said, imagine me, I'm not going to be saying it, it's not going to sound good, you say it. So I don't know whether it was whatever it was fun. And
the precursor to that was the Wisdom Show.
Yes, I remember the Wisdom Show.
Wisdom 2020 was the first ever actual pre, mid and post show from a studio.
Yeah.
A studio show.
Yeah, it had never happened. It had never been done before.
So Charu had done
Wisdom with you guys.
No, yeah, he did Wisdom with us. But before Wisdom, he and Gavaskar and some other guys who had just come into commentary had done these shows from the ground.
Yeah.
After the match was over, they would do a kind of a roundup
of what happened.
There was no show. It was only a roundup. But this was the first ever studio show where you sit behind a
desk or chair,
and you have statistics and you have an expert and some interesting trivia. And we built a lot of engagement. What is important was in my sort of a way of communication. We brought in those days, 2002, SMS-based competitions and contests, and we gave away a Timex watch, and we gave away a Ray-Ban, pair of glasses.
It was crazy. People went crazy.
We got close to about 5 lakh SMSs in our first series. SMSs. Not very easy to, in those days, to even send
and
an
they
SMS.
were paid.
And they were
paid money to
free.
Send an SMS.
Correct.
Yeah, it was not free. Yeah.
So that was the start. And then, of course, I worked very closely with the Sony team to create Extra Innings.
Yeah.
Where Mandira Bedi came into play. And she and Charu were the hosts of Extra Innings. And after Extra Innings, I think almost every television
correct.
channel has
I was with Doordarshan. Yeah,
correct. Everybody has brought in the Fourth Umpire, the Cricket Live, and other shows.
Correct.
And I'm happy that right now we are one of my very, very important and interesting client called Jindal, Jindal Panther, is sponsoring Cricket Live. So it's called Jindal Panther Cricket Live on the World Cup.
Wonderful.
It's like almost 21 years later.
Yeah, I remember when I was doing it, the amount of I'd started playing because I hadn't played cricket. I'd played hockey, and I was a great fan of cricket when I got the show, but I'd never played the sport. So I remember going and playing with the under 17 cricket team, boys team in Delhi. I found a coach. He was also the under 17 boys coach, and he'd constantly sing, "See, she's picking up so quickly. You guys have been at it." Yeah, some sports I just can't pick
Talking
up.
about cricket,
Yeah, I
yes.
know, and I wanted to bring this up. You've written an essay in this book called Indian Cricket Then and Now. Uh, you know, and it's about your uncle.
Yes,
Yeah, that's an interesting story as well.
very interesting because my uncle is a gentleman by the name of Mr. Nari Contractor. And for those who know their cricket history well, he was the captain of India. When he became captain, he was just about 26 years old. So he was the youngest captain ever of the Indian cricket team at that
At
time,
that point.
at that point of time, till the time, unfortunately, he had an accident and the captaincy moved to Mansoor Ali Khan Patowdi, who then became the youngest captain after him. So Uncle Nari is a person who I'm very, very fond of, and we have an amazing rapport and relationship since I was literally born. He considers me his favorite nephew because I think it was the year I was born, he became captain.
So you think you're the lucky charm. You're the lucky
so I'm the
charm.
lucky charm. So we have this little, relationship which borders sometimes on a lot of arguments because he's obviously got his own point of view on cricket. I have my own point of view. We like watching sport together, and of course, being a Parsi and from Bombay, the choicest ones are very very forthcoming. So, and he says, "Oh, so what a stupid thing the guy has done," or something. He gets very
Emotional about it.
He gets kind of pulled into the game, even now at the age of 90. Of course, right now he's become a little quieter. When he got hit on the head in the West Indies, it was 1962. And
Yeah, and helmets weren't a thing then.
no helmets. He's just wearing a normal,
Pea cap.
a pea cap. And he's hit on he's a left-hand opening batsman. So he was batting like this, and the ball came and hit him straight in the
Temple area.
yes, just above the ear and the temple area. Smashed his skull. There wasn't a piece of bone left. How he survived is a miracle. Honestly, I mean,
That is a miracle.
it's a miracle how he survived. 62. The West Indies players, Frank Worrell, Charlie Griffith himself, the bowler who actually hit him, they all went to the hospital and they gave blood to save his life. I mean, it was such a beautiful
was an
gesture.
accident,
Yeah,
yeah.
natural thing. And then he managed to.
It wasn't bloodline.
No. I mean, but
This was just an accident. Yeah.
an accident. And when he came back to India, the doctor in Madras, now Chennai, finished the surgery and he put a steel plate because there was no
His
bone.
skull, yeah. Oh, because
His
it was all
skull
crushed.
was crushed.
Yeah.
So when he put the steel plate, when he was discharging Nari from the hospital, he said, I haven't put a plate, I put a kind of a mesh. It's a steel mesh. So my uncle was a little perplexed. He said, why put a mesh? Why not put a good strong steel plate? He said, no. I put a mesh over there because just in case you hit again on the head, then it'll absorb like a shock absorber.
He almost had an inbuilt helmet.
Yeah, so it will not be if it's a steel plate,
Then it'll just go in.
it'll crack your whole skull. So it has to be, absorbing the shock. So my uncle said, have you lost it or what? I'm not going to
Play again.
Cricket is over and done with. I'm nowhere going close to a bat on a ball. So the doctor said, no, you have to go back and play. You have to, otherwise you live with fear all your life. Now, after getting hit on the head, it was not only the injury of the skull. His vision got affected. He was seeing double because when with that kind of impact,
it's huge. It's a big injury.
For a while, while walking or while doing work, he would see maybe 2 cups, or one not see very clearly, etc. So for him to come back to play.
That was
almost
impossibility.
Almost impossible. He said, I can't even see the ball, I can't even see you properly, etc., etc. But then the doctor told him, no, you have to go and play. So the stories I've heard from his sister, Sherry, and his brother, Behram, who were both much younger to him, that this man then took it upon himself. And he would go early in the morning at 5 o'clock, the crack of dawn, to the Oval Maidan. They used to stay in Kushru Bagh, in Kolaba. So he would go to through the Oval Maidan and he would run, I don't know how many, 30, 40 rounds of that. And it's a huge ground, by the way, just to build back his stamina, to build back his energy. And then he would hit hundreds of balls hanging from a sock in the doorway.
To figure out which of the two he has to hit.
So to get used to that. And the ball would keep coming back and swinging back in that sock. So he slowly came back to some kind of confidence levels, and then he went back to play. And he played, and he almost came back to the Indian team. Of course, a lot of water had flowed under the bridge, a lot of changes had happened. And in his last game ever, his last first class game ever, he scored 97. And the funny part is, had he scored that 100, 3 more runs, he would have been the only person in the whole world to have scored 100 in his first class innings and his last one.
That's an interesting data to have acquired, but I think the life or the journey that he lived was probably, more interesting than necessarily the
Absolutely.
record that would
Absolutely.
have got created.
But the fact that he managed to come back and score 97, and then even now when I meet him, we have this lot of discussions on cricket. But about 7-8 years ago or something, he had an accident where he was shopping and he tripped over a curb and he fell and he hit his head on the same side.
Oh gosh,
of the injury.
but the mesh helped.
It helped, but he was knocked out.
Oh,
So he was concussed and he was taken to hospital, and more or less, they said, okay, I think, we have to wait and watch and see what happens. But he's a fighter, he's a strong guy. When I walked into the hospital, I was in Delhi and I went to Bombay for some work. I said, chalo, let me go and meet uncle in the hospital. He's in the hospital. I walked in, I think around 11, 12 o'clock in the morning. And there he was reading the newspaper. And I walked in and I said, hi, Nari uncle, how are you? Kya ka? Good to see you. Then I said, I have a suggestion. Next time you go for a walk, please wear a helmet.
well, helmet. But you've got pictures. I've been getting these calendars for many years. This is the seventh year of doing these calendars, which are pictures taken by you, impromptu, randomly on your mobile phone, converted into little mini stories. And this one was very interesting, the sadhu with fire reflecting in his Ray-Bans. And how you call it?
He's called Ray-Ban Baba.
Really? That's his name?
That's his name. And he is Babaji who sits outside the Kedarnath temple. He's been there for years. They must be now packing up in another 3 weeks.
Because it's about to close down.
Yeah, it's going to close and again start again in March, April next year.
Yeah, it says, when there's a fire burning inside, your eyes are aflame with every passion. When there's fire burning inside. So what's the fire burning inside you today?
I think one wants to, and has been, of course, but one wants to keep giving as much as possible. I think we get too obsessed with taking and getting, and that becomes, almost obsessive.
Me,
I,
my.
me, myself, I want this. Yes, of course, we all want. And anybody who says he doesn't want would be lying.
Yeah, true.
But after a while, you have to
Also give.
And that came very early in life, because I saw my grandfather, my Nana in Allahabad, when he would have breakfast, he would have 2 slices of bread or toast with butter on it. He would chop each slice into 4 pieces along with his tea. He would give 2 pieces to the dog who would be sitting by his side, Tiki, and 2 pieces were given to the birds, and 2 were given to, I think, the staff or whoever it was, and he would eat 2 pieces. So from 2 toasts of 8 pieces, he would eat only 2, and he would give away 6. And I'm telling you, the impression I got as a youngster, as a kid, of giving was, so deeply entrenched. I was very, very small. I think I must have been hardly about 4 or 5 years old, and just about getting to know, life, sort of a little bit about life. And I still remember my mum telling me the next morning, because I was fast asleep at night, that you know what Nana did? And I said, what did he do? So he used to go to a place called Coral Club in Allahabad. It was a railway club where they used to play housey every Thursday. and it was freezing cold. Allahabad gets very cold. It's it can reach almost 0 degrees. So he was coming back by rickshaw, by cycle rickshaw, and the poor rickshawala had only a thin chadar around him. And my nana was, was very, very smartly dressed
Yeah, I can
gentleman.
imagine.
So he got off at the gate of the house, and when he paid the rickshawala, he took off his Harris tweed jacket and gave it to him. And it's so cold, you better keep
You
it.
need it.
So the rickshawala said, "नहीं sir, मैं नहीं ले सकता. ये आपका है, ये आप ले जाइए." नहीं, I said, "नहीं, you keep it." And a very expensive Harris tweed jacket he just gave to the rickshawala without even batting an eyelid. And that's what I believe, that the more you give, the more you'll get.
No, I totally believe that. And giving is not only financial. Your time, your effort. When somebody calls you for help, it's very easy to say, "Yeah, what can I do? I can't really do anything." Like, so often I see people not even trying. Maybe you can't help the person, but did you even make the effort, or did you even try? So I feel that giving is not just of financial wealth or money. It's time, it's your emotion, it's your bandwidth.
So
You're
I'll tell
sharing
you,
some of your bandwidth.
my wife and I both have decided, and we have been doing this, and she does it a lot more because she's more at home and she has that time to go and visit older people, just to spend time with them. You won't believe it, how much joy she brings to people.
And how much joy she receives back, and how many blessings she must be receiving from them.
Correct. Just to go and spend time, or make a small cake and take it along, or whatever, food, some nice dish has been made, so just take that along and surprise auntie or uncle. They feel so wanted. That is much more than any amount of money you can give anybody else. So you're
agree.
even picking up the phone and just saying hello to somebody. The other day I called somebody up. "Hi, how are you?" So after the first half a minute, अच्छा हाँ बताओ, किस लिए फोन किया?
People have forgotten that you can pick up the phone and talk to somebody
just like that. I said, "Nee, I hadn't spoken to you for a long time," and
everybody assumes it has to be for an agenda.
absolutely,
Because
there
that's
has
what's
to be a
happening.
reason why he's called me or she's called me. So that becomes, and that's what I've seen in my kids also. Anahita and Kurusha, both very giving that way. And one day she wrote a nice little letter to me that, "I don't know what to give to you on your father, on Father's Day, but thank you for telling us not to expect all the time, and just do something without
not to be entitled.
expectation."
Yeah.
The moment you give also with expectation,
It's useless. Then the purpose is defeated. Yeah.
then it's a transaction.
I will take, I will be nice to this person because so and so may be of benefit to me in the future. Then the purpose of giving or doing is defeated completely. One last question. One of the things in the calendar also says, "Have no fear to fly alone." What is the one fear that over the years you've let go of? You've kind of almost unboxed yourself and saying, "When I was younger, I had this thought in my mind. And as I've grown older, I've realized that, it probably was useless fear to begin with." Did you ever have anything like that?
Yes, I actually chose the lowest paying job out of the 6 options I had. And at that time, I didn't realize how difficult it would be. I was passionate about advertising, and I joined Lintas.
Yeah, because you'd done self-published a book as a youngster. You had a creative field, so you thought advertising.
So at that time, but then along the way, I realized that financial security is very important. So there was a fear. Will I make it? Will I not? Will I be able to have that comfort level, etc.? And along the way, that part has been, by the grace of God, put aside, because once you reach a certain level of comfort around you, then you start looking at much more important things. So for example, I have been working very closely with a friend of mine called Himanshu Rath, who runs an NGO called Age Well. This is for older people. It's not an old age home.
Got it.
But it's a small organization, but it's a huge organization because it's got 75,000 volunteers around the country.
That is
So
amazing.
you can join Age Well
Yeah.
as much as anybody else can, because, like I said, it's not about an old age home. You could be in your neighborhood
Just take care of some of the older people. Shopping for them, maybe just picking up medicines, just popping in every
gas
now.
connection nahi ho pa raha hai. Somebody wants a will drawn up. Somebody wants legal advice. Somebody wants medical advice. Somebody wants just to spend time. Auntie, how are you? Go and have a cup of tea. That's it. So those 75,000 people do that around the country, and AgeWell is the only UN recognized NGO in the country. And I went with Himanshu to the UN in New York. And we both went over
Very
there.
exciting life.
Oh, yeah. I've done all kinds of crazy things. So just now, for example...
but this sounds interesting, and probably we'll try and attach the link of AgeWell for anybody who does want to volunteer, any of our speakers who listen
so
to.
we raised a lot of funds recently for AgeWell also. And what I've done, for example, is a marketing idea, but it's with a social message. So, the older people, after a while, need diapers as much as babies do.
Yeah.
Right? The diapers are expensive. And we tied up AgeWell with the leading diaper brand in the country called Friends. And on every pack of diapers, we mentioned the story of AgeWell and a small QR code that if you would like to contribute, just scan this image and send your contribution. So that gives me so much of pleasure and excitement.
Your experience of working with brands, raising sponsorship. I mean, there's the whole Hero Cup story, which is there for people to read, and how you managed to create
another episode.
For another episode. Yeah, how you managed to create a cricket IPL, an IP when it didn't exist.
30 years ago, exactly 30 years ago.
30 years ago.
30 years ago. I think today, 7th of October was Hero Cup, if I'm not mistaken, 1993. Which is
how you got all the 3 hero companies to come in, put the sponsorship in place. So
Brij Mohanlal, Obi Munjal and Pankaj Munjal all came together
and history was created with the Hero Cup. And it was a path-breaking, tournament at that point, and telecast on television, private television at that point.
First time that Doordarshan actually did not produce it.
Yeah.
And they went on strike because of that. So I have another, connection with Doordarshan. Not very happy.
But then eventually led to Happy Places. You worked with Doordarshan. That's where I met you.
There's a guy called Jonathan Riley who came, and he actually did the production for TWI. And I can't tell you the quality of production of Hero Cup compared to what it was earlier. It was like chalk and cheese. But talking about, giving, and like I said, that fear of only wanting has now, been taken care of. But giving is not only linked to, like I said, just financial stuff, but your time, your energy, your effort, and giving a chance to something which otherwise would have not really seen the light of day. So I got involved with blind cricket, and we took the Indian blind cricket team to Pakistan for a 5-match series.
Wow. When was this? Many years back, yeah.
Yes, almost 20 years ago. Yesterday when I was at the stadium, I crossed that bus stop. There's a bus stop at the stadium. From there, the Delhi-Lahore bus used to start. So we all came to the bus stop. The entire blind cricket team, along with the management, and I got into the bus.
And drove to Lahore.
We drove to Lahore from Delhi with 2 escort cars, 1 car in front, 1 car at the back with the entire police escort taking us all the way up to Lahore. And what was the most fascinating thing over there was the welcome we got. I mean, the fact that the relationships between the 2 countries were, I think, at their best at that time. And they welcomed the team. They gave us great hospitality. And there was a faux pas along the way. The last match was in Islamabad, and that's the capital. And I think we made a mistake of not informing the High Commission that the last match is in Islamabad, and the Pakistan Cricket Board did not inform the High Commission. So
on both sides?
On both sides, you made a faux pas. And we were having dinner at about 9 o'clock at night in Islamabad, and suddenly the Pakistani Cricket Board guy tells me that, Navroze, I hope your High Commissioner Shiv Shankar Menon is going to be coming tomorrow morning for the toss. And I said, I thought you're the host, you should have invited him. No, I thought you were the guys from the blind cricket team, you'll invite him. So they thought we will invite, and we thought they will invite, and
He didn't get invited.
He didn't get invited. And this was the night before. This was on Saturday night, and Sunday morning was the match. So I go back to I think the Hilton in Islamabad. I go back at night at 9:30, and I call the Indian High Commission number from the directory. And one guy picks the phone up and says, Indian High Commission, Assalamu alaikum. I said, मुझे बात करनी है High Commissioner से. क्या हो गया? कोई problem है क्या? First reaction was,
because at 9:30 at night, what would you expect? Yeah.
Why is this guy calling the High Commissioner? I said, नहीं, कल cricket match है तो उनको invite करना है. And within a minute or two, he linked me to the High Commissioner's residence. And Shiv Shankar went in very proper, yes, Mr. Dhondy, how can I help you? I said, I'm Navroze, please don't be so formal, but we'd like to invite you. Okay, I'll come for 10 minutes. I know, I said, I'm sorry, I apologized. There's a faux pas from our side, but please do come tomorrow for 10 minutes. I'll come for the toss, I'll have a cup of tea, and I will leave. Can I bring my wife along? I said, of course, please, both of you come. On the dot of 9 o'clock.
He was there.
Before 9 o'clock, 2 minutes before 9 o'clock. His car with the Indian flag, and we were so happy to see him. He came, parked his car, met all the players, had a toss, did the toss for the match, came back, sat down, was sitting having a cup of tea. And he began watching this, and he said, I have to leave in 10 minutes because I have another appointment. And he watched and watched and watched.
He didn't feel like leaving.
He realized that it was 11:30, 11 o'clock. And then he tells his assistant, and his wife was totally engrossed, and said that, tell all our staff, whatever they're doing on Sunday, to stop that and come here. And just watch what human beings can do. I had never seen blind cricket in my life, he said, and he said, I will not leave
till this match is over.
So he was there till the first innings at least. For at least half the match he was there till lunchtime.
That's amazing, from 10 minutes.
Yes, from 10 minutes he was there for almost 1.5, 2 hours, and he watched the entire game. And he was really touched. I mean, I came back and I sent him a nice email. He wrote a beautiful email to me, which I still treasure.
No, because I think the reason he stayed back was not blind cricket, but the triumph of the human spirit. No, that's truly what touched him. Yeah. Well, I think, there are so many stories you and I can discuss, and you're a pitara of stories. But it's been amazing speaking with you. Thank you so much, Navroze, for taking time out. I hope everybody enjoys it.
I hope so too.
That's it on this episode of Unbox with Tunvey. We'll catch you on another episode soon.